Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we're going to talk about Frontier, Season 1, Episode 2. It's called Little Brother War. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. Now, we said in the first review, the first episode, that we were checking out the next one and we'd see how we feel. We weren't too sure if it was one we wanted to commit to continuing. And I think we have kind of come to the conclusion that we probably will not watch past this episode.
Yeah, pretty much.
Don't get me wrong, it's not bad.
It's not.
It's not terrible by any means. It's funny actually because obviously one of the main complaints we had in the last one was the scene pacing was the biggest issue, where scenes felt like they were chopped up and went quickly for the sake of getting through things to stick to a time.
Yeah.
And I think that problem was kind of gone in this one. I feel like that problem went away, which is good.
Yeah, there's improvement there.
But the problem I had with this one, and it was kind of like other things that maybe I wasn't noticing as much in the last time because I was too busy paying attention to this feels rushed and quick, and
Yeah.
but there was other things that came up in this one that I think were already there, but they've just came to the surface with this episode, and it was because it kept almost getting good, and it kept not being what I wanted it to be, and I think the big prime example is here that a good big bit at the end of this episode is, I mean, the plot is that Declan and his men are going to rescue this the grandson of another tribe, who Lord Benton's got captured up. He wasn't the one that got him. There was some Scottish brothers, the Brown brothers, which by the way,
Yeah.
two Scottish guys and then a third guy who I wasn't sure if he was meant to be Scottish or meant to be something else, but there was some Scottish accent in there, but it was really going back and forth. It was a really weird voice.
Accents are a bit spy.
Accents were occasionally. The other ones though, I felt like it always sounded like they were trying to do Scottish, even if it wasn't hitting
Yeah, I feel
completely.
about most of the accents, like the Irish. It's like, okay, it's not always great, but you can hear
Yeah, I
it's
will give them
there.
points though, because some of the Scottish characters were saying phrases that I would expect Scottish people to say, but I wouldn't necessarily think that foreign people would know that they say.
You got any examples of that?
There's a lot of swearing in the one I'm thinking of. um, just little things, just little phrasings, just that I don't expect people who outside of Scotland to know those words. So I feel like whoever's put in the research to the script
Well, yeah, I mean
is.
that's fair because even as an Englishman, you sometimes say things that I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah. So there was a few things like that where I'm like, okay, they've done their research. At least it feels authentic in that sense. Where even the stuff with the Native Americans, which I'm no expert on, I don't really know for sure if it's authentic, but it feels authentic. I feel like maybe this is because it's in part from Discovery Channel, Discovery Canada co-produced this with Netflix.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's that origin that's meant all the historical accuracy is there for the most part, at least as far as I can tell. As
Yeah,
someone who doesn't know
I'm
about
sure they've taken some narrative leniencies, but broad strokes, I'm sure they've put in someone.
Yeah, yeah. So it feels a lot of that stuff does feel authentic in that sense. The way they're talking and phrasing stuff, just the accents themselves are a little bit hit and miss.
Yeah.
But where was it going? Yes. So yeah, these Scottish brothers kidnap this kid, and Chesterfield just kills the Scottish guy. He doesn't care. He's like, nah,
I approve of that, to be fair.
shut up. And don't get me wrong, it was a tosser. But
Well, yeah, but it was just because it was Scottish.
anyway, so they go to, so Lord Breton's men have got him in this house, this little cottage, and they're guarding him, and there's lots of soldiers around, and Declan and his men, including Michael, who's kinda over the course of the episode learned to be kinda trusted, maybe not fully yet, but they don't have him tied up anymore, and they're using
Yeah.
his advice to help, and they agree a plan where he'll go inside and pretend that he's back from Declan. And he'll go along and let Lord Benton think that he's come back with information and he's to go back to Declan the next day, play along and all that.
Yeah.
So they're trusting him not to just rat them out. So this was like a test of trust,
Yeah.
which is a good plot point. And I thought them all sneaking in and taking out the soldiers, I was like, oh, this should be good. This is like the chance in episode 2 to do almost like Daredevil had that big action scene at the end of its second episode in season 1.
Yeah.
That really impressive fight that told you, oh, that's what this show was. This is why you should be excited because it can do things like this.
It just never quite delivered, did it?
It almost hit it, like, when they came into the room where the soldiers are playing cards and they slit all their throats really quickly. He throws the knife at one guy. It was fine, but it was like, it's not quite enough. It feels like it's competent in what it's doing. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. It felt like it was too short and simple.
Yeah.
And because I was gearing up for a really exciting, stealthy, sneaking around, taking out various people. Like
And
it was
then
a
all
proper,
of a sudden it was over.
yeah, it was like a proper mission. And then, not to sound like a disappointed girlfriend or something, but yeah, they blew the load far too soon.
It really did.
So that's how it felt, and it kind of. But the other problem with that whole scene was as it was happening, and even as I was getting kind of excited, I was like, they're going up to the doors and they're sneaking around. I was thinking, this would be way more exciting if I actually knew what the stakes were. Beyond just saving this guy. Like, he's saving this guy to get in good with this other tribe. Why is he getting in good with that other tribe? Okay, we know he wants to trade with them, and he does say at the end, oh, it's not just about trade, it's about having an army. Like, okay,
Yeah.
fine, but I still don't really know.
That's kind of my biggest problem there with the show. Like, I don't really know why anyone's really doing it. I don't feel like I know any of the characters that well. And given that we're now a third through,
Yeah, it's only 6 episodes, so we're a third of the story.
that's the thing. If this was a longer season, I feel like this would be less of a concern, and I wouldn't be holding it against it quite as much because it is only the second episode. But when you've only got 6, you've got to make those count more than you have done with these.
Yeah, yeah. That was the other big problem I had. Is it felt like I didn't really know what the stakes really were, and he opens up a little bit at the end. 'Cause again, this is the idea that he opens up a little bit more to Michael as the episode goes on. At the end, he actually just flat out tells him some stuff, and we also hear from someone else because Grace, the ginger barmaid, she tries to make a deal with Chesterfield, and they've got something brewing. No pun intended, because she's a barmaid. But we find out that because I actually thought they had like a romantic history, and they may still have, but she also mentions that he had a wife, and or his wife's now dead, and that's maybe why he's
Yeah.
on this crusade that he's on, and that's fine. And like, you're giving us some stuff, but it doesn't feel like I still don't really feel like I know him well enough.
That,
And I think part
that's
of
it.
that's
It's like
because
they're telling me stuff, but I don't believe any of it.
I think a big part of the problem is the first episode he was hardly in it. It focused on Michael, and then in this episode, okay, we got a little good bit with Michael, like proving his worth and going in, and that was fine. But it created this weird problem where we now kind of shifted to mostly other characters,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, the only one I was kind of invested in was Michael to an extent.
Well, yeah, because the first episode, it was like, I think we spoke how we'd expected Jason Momoa to be the main character based on the billing, and he's the star, and then we got into it, and it was like, oh, this kid's the main character. And this kind of throws that away.
It does. It doesn't even make him the main character, it just makes it more of an ensemble, because I think we cut to Grace in Chesterfield just as much as we
We do,
cut
and
to anyone else.
I'm down for ensembles, but it's the problem with 6 episodes. I don't think is enough to be compelling
Yeah,
as an ensemble.
because Grace has motives to try and help Chesterfield, who's a dick, quite frankly, take over the town, and we don't know why she really wants to do that. And this is not to say that we need all these answers. Like, there's nothing wrong with building intrigue and mystery and keeping some motivations a secret. But I feel like I don't know what anyone wants, except the villain, Lord Benton. I know what he wants, but the problem with Lord Benton is that he's a complete cartoon character. And
He is.
in this episode especially, I felt it. The whole hanging the guy at the start, the way that the barmaid that he has spying on the bar for himself, she comes and gives him information, and he holds out a coin for her to pay, and he's like, nope, kneel, and she kneels, and then he drops it on the floor. She's going to take it, and he puts his hand on her, or his foot on her hand, and he's like, you will continue to keep bringing me, and he's just such a cartoon mustache
She literally
twirling-
did her job that you're paying her to do. What is your problem, dude?
He's evil. He's not evil in a believable way. He's evil to the point of just absolute cartoon. I can't think of a better word to describe it.
No, there isn't one.
So that's my problem. I think if he was more believable in his villainy, I'd hate him, and that hatred would maybe, make me strive to see the other characters succeed.
Yeah, but instead it feels like he's just kind of fun, almost. He's not threatening because it's so over the top now.
Yeah.
Like it feels like I say because he feels cartoonish. It makes the stakes feel like that. Where sure he can threaten random people, but the people we care about are safe.
Yeah.
If we cared about anyone in this at this point.
And it has I think we spoke about this in the first one, but I felt it even more in this because we don't even see Michael's girlfriend back in London in this one. So she has literally just become a plot point where, oh yeah, it's just she say if you're going to help her, it's like, I will help your girl when you deliver me Declan, and then that's it. She's just a thing. She's just a thing that's there to motivate him. It's not really a character anymore.
Yeah, not that she was much of one in the first place.
I think it's honestly much like I said this in the last one about the opening title music being too fast and the opening titles being too fast. And again, I like the music. The actual see when the chanting starts coming in, I actually think it's a really good piece of music. But the problem I have there is that it felt too fast and too much was in it, and I feel that way about the show. You've only got 6 episodes. I felt like what you needed to do was simplify this and just follow one character.
Yeah, tell me one story well. Instead, they're trying to tell me like 4 different ones.
Yeah,
and it's just like you've not got enough time to do this.
They're all diluted. Exactly. Follow Declan doing what he's doing in the woods. Have him have this mission to go out and save this kid, and follow him doing that. And anyone else he encounter, keep it from his point of view. Don't cut to these other characters elsewhere.
Yeah, stick with just him and Michael.
Yeah,
like that, because obviously first episode was that from the outside perspective to build Declan. That works, and then do it from his perspective from this to counteract that. And it just feels like missed opportunity for so much of this.
It feels like it wants to do the whole, and I'm not just saying this because Momoa's in it, but it feels like it's trying to do the whole Game of Thrones thing. We've got all these different factions.
Yeah,
and plot threads
and obviously there's the idea in Game of Thrones where, or at its core, it should be that you could support other people. There's not like there's a clear, these are people are right and these are wrong. Like that's the idea, whereas here it's straight off. It's like, who's meant to care about anyone?
Yeah, he's definitely a villain. He's definitely a villain. Grace we're not so sure about, but Declan's definitely not the villain, and that's kind of...
Which is interesting, because obviously they tried to present it like he could be the villain, like he could be a villain at least.
He doesn't seem like it.
So he just doesn't, yeah.
They could twist it and show us that he's done something really despicable, and it'll make us hate him. But at this point, it doesn't feel that way. It feels too one-directional.
I think that there is actually a problem of Lord Benton being so ridiculously over-the-top evil. Because if he'd been more down-to-earth believable, him telling us about Declan being a villain might have made it seem like it could have landed a bit more. Yeah, because it would have felt like an actual rivalry.
Yeah, because at one point actually he's telling his men about Declan, and he's saying how evil he is and how he's a savage and how he only looks out for himself. And you're just describing yourself here. This is you.
Yeah, and obviously, and we're watching him then go and save this kid. And well, sure, it's ultimately that he has a goal. He's still doing something good.
Yeah, at least his mission feels honourable in that sense. And the way he talks to his grandmother, the kid's grandmother, and he's trying to get her respect, even if he has a goal. The way he talks to her, it never feels.
It's respectful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, sure, he's got a goal, but he's trying to go about it, I guess, in the right way. Whereas Benton's like, you don't do what I say, it's like your throat, dead.
Yeah, exactly, and that makes it uninteresting. It makes Declan less interesting because it means he hasn't got this sort of opposing force that's equally something there. It's just
I don't think
missing.
that on its own makes it less interesting. It's uninteresting with the way if Benton was more neutral, then the way Declan is would be fascinating because we wouldn't know who to root for. And if Benton is this like maniacally evil, then Declan should also be pretty hardcore to try and counteract it, and it would
it's like they couldn't decide which one to go for.
And the problem is I'm just left kind of feeling like, well, he's clearly the good guy, he's clearly the bad guy. And while I like that kind of story, I like a good, just simple good guy versus bad guy story. The problem is it's trying to do all these other things with all these other plots. It's trying to build up all this intrigue, and every time it cut to the French Canadian guy, the rich guy, that the 2 Scottish guys go and speak to it, I was like, I don't care about any of this. I don't care about the trade route.
I agree, and
you've not made me care about it yet.
That's like what the biggest problem is. It's not a bad show. It's perfectly competent.
It's competent, but not engrossing.
It never has me fully engaged.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, all the positives we said in the first one are still there. It still looks good. Visually, costume, set design, all that kind of thing looks really good. The acting, I think, is generally pretty good. Obviously, the accents waver a bit, but I think the actual acting's...
Yeah, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 smaller players that are not as...
Yeah. All the major
overall,
players
it's
are
pretty
good.
solid, yeah.
So, on a technical level, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just the focus,
and it's
the
like,
script.
I can see why someone would enjoy this. But it's just not it's just not getting me.
I think if you love like history and you love this, maybe if you're particularly interested in this type of history, you might get a lot out of it just for what it's sort of the time period it's in and what it's exploring. Because it's not necessarily this specific conflict's not exactly something that's super well known. I don't think it is worldwide anyway. It's not super well known. So I think you might get something out of it that way if you're a bit of a history buff. But I think. Yeah, I think basically what we're saying is we're not doing the rest
Yeah,
of it.
but it boils down to we're a third through and the characters aren't compelling enough to make me care to come back.
Yeah, and the thing is, if we don't care, then we don't get an interesting conversation because we don't start speculating, we're not invested in what's going on, which is what leads to the good talk when we review stuff. So there's only so many times we can talk about the same problems, and I don't think there's any point in us doing that another 4 times.
No, this is why we gave it the second episode. Like we say all the time how first episodes often have their own problems, and they can kind of get rid of them quickly after that. And it got rid of some of them, but it highlighted others, unfortunately.
Yeah. So that's Frontier episode 2. Obviously, we didn't go super in detail into the plot in this one, but obviously, since we're not continuing it, it feels less important to do so. So let us know what you thought of this one. If you're liking the show, that's great. By all means, let us know if you're still enjoying it. But otherwise, guys, like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you for something else next time.